Okay, welcome back to the live version of the TechnoCommunism Manifesto podcast. I use these words in describing this podcast, the Ben Zion podcast or the TechnoCommunism podcast, interchangeably. Um, I think that that's um, kind of the reason why I'm doing this is to popularize these ideas. I don't know exactly how to do that. Techno-communism is a more understandable, immediately understandable phrase. My name um, is not necessarily but I try to use both of these. I'm saying this because I finished a first draft of a pamphlet of about 10,000 words called not exactly called the Techno-Communist Manifesto. Um, I'll share with you the reason why I say that. Um, and I should go full screen on this, but um, that would come to. Why can't I flip that? Oh, well, let's see if you can see that. Oh, you can't see that at all, can you? That says how to use AI to build communism in your lifetime. Because if you don't, human beings will soon be extinct. So that's a cover art uh, that I made. We'll probably use copy like that. I don't know if I'll use that exact art for this pamphlet. And that, even though it's longer than the words Techno-Communist Manifesto, I think it's more effective um, way of describing the problem and these ideas. We do need to build full communism. Technological determinism has been a part of those ideas for as long as people have been writing about this, so since Marx, at least. Um, and so there's nothing particularly novel in this set of ideas that I call techno-communism or Marxist tech accelerationism. All of those specific words are not always used to describe this, but those things themselves um, did exist before I was writing about this. Um, and of course, as I said, technological determinism has been a part of this kind of thinking for a long time. So what you would say, well, why not just talk about Marxist theory in general if there's these clear antecedents and parallels? Well, the answer is almost no Marxists actually think in these terms that superintelligence and advanced computing systems are the most powerful tool ever to exist. And so, because ordinary people aren't thinking in these terms, because Marxists aren't really thinking in these terms as much as they should, what we're doing is we're surrendering this most powerful tool to the techno-fascist powers, incipient techno-fascists, and all of the tech people in the West who are using these things for more nefarious ends, essentially dropping a noose that is techno-fascism, super intelligent techno-fascism, around all of our necks in slow motion as we do nothing to fight it. Uh, this is more and more in evidence when we think about the existence of a surveillance state. So I'm going to read from my notes a little bit about this now. Um, the Pentagon has stated, presumably, this is somewhat to do with conflicts that the United States is more or less funded and orchestrated in the Middle East, particularly the so-called State of Israel. modern Israel and its war against Hamas, which of course it's killed many people, well over 10,000 people, pushing up to almost just 10,000 small children that's killed. Most all of them were civilians, um, and so the number of casualties is, serious injuries or deaths is up to nearly 50,000 or something now in just a month and a half. And this is this rightly called the so-called is this rightly called the Israeli Hamas war? No, I mean it's more accurate to call it the Israeli versus children's war. It's killing a much larger number of children than it is enemy combatants by its definition. But these people are not enemies to anyone. The Israelis are the enemies. Um, People living in a concentration camp, fighting to be liberated, fighting for basic human rights, are not terrorists. It's a bit like saying, and other people, of course, saying this as well, that the Warsaw Ghetto uprising was terrorism against Nazi Germany. Um, it's a bit like saying people in Auschwitz resisting are terrorists. But this is a commonplace view, unfortunately, here where we live in the fascist West. And so we are now, because of these escalating conflicts, it would seem, moving more and more into the world, according to the Pentagon, has made statements that they've accelerated their use of autonomous uh, lethal weaponry, killer robots. Um, and so this is just about the worst thing that can happen. But it's par for the course for the incipient technofascism that we live in. The surveillance state has worsened in this time frame as well. Um, there have been some articles about some new kinds of rollouts like this along those lines as well. Uh, so, what does all this mean from the techno-communist perspective? Well, we have rapid technological advancements in our time. One of which I'm going to talk about, a digital assistant prospect, and some other things like this. So the integration of artificial general intelligence more and more is becoming a part of our society. So we're going to talk about some areas that are impacted by this here in the fascist West, and those would be governance, the workplace, and as I already alluded to, warfare, and describe some of the challenges and possibilities if we move in the techno-communist direction, that is, that accompany this technological set of developments that we are facing. This technological set of developments we are facing is often kind of rather mystically referred to as the AI singularity. I don't like that word as much. I use it a lot, but I prefer to say AI takeoff. It's a better description of what would happen without kind of making it just seem like a lot of woo-woo. And as we move here, there is into this strange new territory. One thing that we must remember is that we need responsible and ethical AI use, and this is something that's said by AI talking heads almost constantly, so it bears repeating that the only way to do that is to resist the existing techno-fascism and demand a humane and sustainable economic system built with this most powerful tool that's ever existed. Um, that is the essential idea of techno-communism. Some of the ideas that I discussed in the pamphlet that I alluded to. But this is more about recent developments. So you might have heard that a company that makes ChatGPT called OpenAI had some, I guess, what would be in the tech world controversies. Their popular CEO was ousted, and then there was a lot of palace intrigues around that. Um, but this company also has in recent hours um, another revelation of a new technology that suggests the possibility of superintelligence, something at the or beyond the level of human capabilities in artificial intelligence, and I believe that this kind of thing, even though it's made by a pretty bad company, um, and all for profit enterprises and private wealth has the same problem. I think this kind of thing will tend to accelerate a consciousness and push us in the direction of technocommunism. But I think that requires us, all of us, to discuss these things and demand them, and also organize to that end. I want to take a second to say thank you to the people who resisted the disgusting consumerism of Black Friday yesterday, and instead were protesting on behalf of the Gazans and the Palestinians, mostly in Gaza. Um, uh, this is the best sort of thing that you could be doing. You have to continue to organize along these lines as well. Um, uh, there's okay, so the concepts of technocommunism, combining the words obviously technology and communism, represents a fusion of advanced AI capabilities with communist principles, envisioning a humane and sustainable planned economy. And that's a necessary element. That's something that many popular personalities and politicians, who I would say are also kind of a little more than entertainers in the United States, who some of them describe themselves as some kind of socialist, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Bernie Sanders. But these are people who sometimes don't really fight for, as you can recall in recent years, they don't really fight for a public health service. They sometimes talk about how they want a public health service. They don't really fight for it. And more to the point, their definition of socialism is having a public health service that coexists alongside a capitalist market economy. That's not socialism. That is capitalism with some very small safety net features. And while it is extremely important, I think one of the most important things to build a public health service, it's not enough just to do this kind of sham activism. It is important that we focus on abolishing private wealth. So, in response to this OpenAI fiasco, perhaps, OpenAI has been tantalizing the prospect of superintelligence. They don't want to become an afterthought or yesterday's news when it comes to AI assistance. But perhaps this suggests something very real. I've read abstracts of white papers of a few different kinds that suggest um, in machine learning and other disciplines near-term developments that would be beyond human capabilities in artificial intelligence. I didn't think when I was small, or even just a few years ago, that I would have a digital assistant. Now I basically do. That's free, and according to most people, that will become something that is much better and more commonplace in the years to come. And I hope that will correspond with more of an interest in. I think that it will lead to more of an interest in building a humane and sustainable economic system, class consciousness, and I think it would be almost impossible for it not to have that effect to some degree. Just giving people more information, more tools, maybe allowing them to reclaim some of their time through the use of these things. I hope that becomes more systematized. I hope that other countries will that are not so fascistic as the United States will be able to integrate these services into programs that are genuinely focused at accelerating that, helping people more. Um, This thing that I'm reading for you about these uh, three subjects that I suggested: governance of the workplace and warfare. Um, it's about essentially about technocommunism, and to think about those things, we need to discuss ideas like collectivism and collectivist decision making as assisted by artificial superintelligence, technologically mediated connectivity and enhancement, um, and other ideas like broader social justice concepts of inclusivity, and of course combating the problems of this war machine. Uh, Chief among those is transparency. Transparency. Um, so let's um, in I hope you understand the importance of a humane and sustainable economic system, which means a techno-communist planned economy. Anything else will fall short of that. Just in the way that our friend Bernie Sanders says that he wants a public health service, he doesn't really fight for it. There were the controversy that I alluded to with AOC and Bernie Sanders and the so-called squad, these sham socialists. In recent years, there was a push for demanding a public health service in the wake of the coronavirus outbreak. I was involved in lesser controversies along these lines myself. Um, and these people said now is not the time to do this. We have to be more strategic. And the result was they got nothing, and other things got worse. And that's what these people do. So anyone falling short of demanding a planned economy, demanding the abolition of private wealth, fighting for a humane and sustainable economic system, all of these people are effectively agents of capital. They are effectively crypto fascists, whether they realize it or not. And so we have to be willing to actually fight for these things. Again, just this year, in recent months, this planet breached the 2-degree heating threshold that is indicative of a dying planet. We breached this thing that climate alarmists 10 years ago were saying that we wouldn't breach for many years. We've already breached it. Briefly, I guess it's fallen off a little bit. The point is, we are reaching a point of no return. All of the estimates say that if we do not make substantive changes in 5 years, which basically means the banning of all petroleum products that in doing so would not contribute to a massive loss of life, and the banning of livestock systems, which neither would that lead to a loss of life. You don't need to eat beef. You can eat products that taste exactly like beef that have virtually no environmental impact, and that's what you should be doing. If we ban those two things and take measures along these lines, then we might not die. Otherwise, we will. But if, unfortunately, the fascist U.S. is the ringleader of this ecocidal cult, and the fascist U.S. has been able to exert incredible influence on the rest of the world to see that none of this kind of thing is done. Through its military-industrial complex, itself the world's worst polluter. So it should be abundantly clear to anyone who's thinking honestly of these things that we have to remove the United States from the equation if we are going to survive. The United States government, that is. And so people doing things like taking direct action against Elbit systems and the distribution of weapons through other means. A lot of this has happened in recent weeks. Are effectively doing this, taking the first steps toward doing this. We all need to be doing this. We need to be marching on Washington, D.C., pitchfork in hand, every day, every weekend, until we are no longer at risk of having a human extinction. So let's shift gears. I want to talk briefly about products that could change your life a bit. I mentioned AI assistants becoming commonplace in the next 3 years. It might be said you might have this as an essential free good. Hopefully, not actually, of course, a free good. Governments could roll these things out as literal free goods, but I think if the use of ChatGPT is any indicator, it will be still widely available more or less that way. And so there was a little bit of talk about Microsoft's Copilot having some of these capabilities. So let's look for a second at one of these. It can quickly summarize documents, generate email responses, be attending meetings on your behalf, and a lot of kinds of things like this, doing a certain amount of legwork for you that you might not be able to do. There's not enough hours in the day. It frees you up for doing other things. Um, uh, so, what are some of the issues with this? Um, this kind of AI productivity is intending to increase the kinds of problems along the lines of the gig economy, ensnaring people in a workplace which kind of consumes their life. So this is very much more, in many respects, the um, generally capitalist accelerationist kind of development, which hastens the death of the planet and hastens the enslavement of humankind, than the techno-communist kind. Um, and let's go to this again, to the lethal autonomy. So the Pentagon, as I said, is accelerating its use of a particular kind of AI, killer robots, and this is, I think, among the worst things that could happen. But I think there are geopolitical strategic concerns with something like this. Um, um, the, the amorality of it, the way that people have responded to the Palestine conflict. I think if the United States starts using um, uh, lethal weaponry, killer robots, it will go from being increasingly a pariah to being overwhelmingly a pariah on the global stage, which would be good, um, I think, from the point of view of ending this number one polluter, the United States military-industrial complex. Um, but let's not let's maybe figure out how to do that without a massive loss of life or any loss of life. Um, uh, so yes, this is a very real thing. Killer robots are real. And the United States is debating using them. People are not happy about it, and rightly so. Um, so these areas are around AI. Um, um, there's no way of looking at any of this again without emphasizing the need for all of us, you, um, fighting for the abolition of private wealth, fighting for a humane and sustainable economic system. There's no world left for us to enjoy in the absence of that. We can say um, we can we it's nearly the end of the year, and that's the time when you have these end of year reflections on what has been done in the year, what people have accomplished, what you are doing, your resolutions, and so forth. There's been less of that in recent years, whether it's because of warfare, unrest, the coronavirus outbreak, but it's still of course done. But there will be no such reflection in a few years if we do not stop the United States as the world's worst polluter and protector of all other super polluters. If we do not stop that, and take dramatic action, direct action, as a people to stop that, those reflections will be meaningless. It will be as if none of us ever existed. All of this will have been for naught. If you're, I think of people that I know spending a lot of time taking care of the children, taking care of their children or child. If we don't accomplish this thing, and if you don't work to accomplish this thing of ending the ecocide, well, you might as well have just abandoned your child. You might as well have just done violence to them because that's what you're doing. Um, uh, so, um, um, I guess a little bit about this techno-communist manifesto work. I'm going to make a PDF of it soon with the artwork that I showed you and some other artwork interspersed throughout. And I would really appreciate your feedback.